One of the best things in film festivals aren't only the films, aren't only the new knowledge you acquire when you find out all the different films cultures that are all around the world, but getting to know friends, experts who share or don't share your view of film. And one of those is for sure our friend Dennis Broe. He's a researcher, he's a writer, novel writer, and he writes a lot about TV series. So, Dennis, as with this year we don't have Cannes, we wanted to talk with you. How are you?
I'm okay, despite no con. I guess I'm hoping for Venice. Venice is still open. They're still talking that it might happen. So we shall see. And if it's safe, or they can figure out a way for it to be safe, that would be great. But we'll see. Meanwhile, I've sort of gone back in the past to Hollywood in the 1940s.
Yeah, I know because
Subject of my novel.
I've enjoyed one of the things that it's supposed to have been the advantages of this quarantine. It's that we should have more time for reading. I don't know if it's your case or if you have even done more writing, but I've enjoyed. I'll never forget these days, not because of what they are, but because of Left of Eden. What a great novel, Dennis. I think it's like the project of a lifetime, isn't it? Because it has a lot of your research, it has a lot of great characters. Well, it's congratulations, great novel. How did you do it all alone?
Well, I was thinking about, I always wanted to write a detective novel, and I was thinking about, well, what do I know best? What area? Because people write detective novels about places where they live, and I live in Paris. I've also lived in New York. I lived in LA for a while, but what I knew best was Hollywood in the 1940s before I was born. Because I wrote two books about it. The first is called Film Noir, American Workers in Post-War Hollywood. And the second is called Past Crime and International Film Noir. So I knew the area and I knew the time period pretty well. And I love detective novels, particularly, Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler, and Ross MacDonald.
Sure.
And my sort of all-time favorite is Lou Archer, Ross MacDonald. And Ross MacDonald really writes about the kind of sordid life that goes on just outside LA and just on the periphery of the film industry, and people who didn't make it, and that's always been interesting to me. I guess, the great film about that is David Lynch's film Mulholland Drive. But
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
I wanted to write a novel, and the first one, this is a trilogy. The first
Yeah.
one has to do with the Hollywood blacklist. And the detective has just gotten kicked off the police force. We don't know exactly why. It looks like he might be corrupt, but
Yeah.
we don't find out really until book 3. He might have gotten kicked off because he was honest rather than that he was corrupt, but we can't be sure. At any rate, he set up a little office on Bunker Hill, this sort of sleazy section of LA that's not very well patrolled, and that you see in a lot of the film noirs in the 40s, actually. He's sort of open for business, and this guy comes in who's an accountant with a studio. It's kind of like a fledgling studio trying to take on the major studios. They want him to babysit this actor. The
Yeah.
background here, though, is that the whole town is agitated and anxious after 10 writers, actors, and producers finally were sentenced to jail time in the wake of the House Un-American Activities Committee, or HUAC, hearing, and no one knows what will come next. So that's sort of the background in which our hero, or lead character, Harry Palmer, gets hired to kind of babysit this actor. And the actor has political leanings. He's very popular, but he's gone to this studio, this small studio. This was the era of independent studios. They were really starting to get popular right after the war, from 46 to about 48. And they were challenged to the major studios. And actors, once they'd finished their contract, were going and working with these independent studios because they had much more freedom. Maybe a little bit like actors today, or like today, working with Netflix, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, so Harry goes to see the actor, and there's this writer who's talking about kind of unionizing, and also he's talking about just coming back from what happened at the blacklist, or what happened in the HUAC hearings, where he's been assaulted, they've been charged, and they couldn't possibly go to jail. And so everyone's really kind of terrified. And it's in this atmosphere that Harry starts his investigation to see, because someone is blackmailing the actor. They were called badger plots, or blackmail plots, because they just badgered. There's Hollywood in the late 40s was a place of independent studios. It was also, of course, a place of gangsters, and had been.
Yeah, that's what you show in the book. Yeah. Completely.
That had been exposed in the early 40s, but they were, of course, still there. And gangsters were operating in this kind of netherworld of the Hollywood clubs. Because there was a kind of breakdown of the studios. The studios had less money, and so a lot of business now was being transacted in these clubs at night, and that's where the gangsters kind of came in.
Yeah, that's what you show perfectly in the book, but also some things that I think are part of your research, of your thinking, and it's very well portrayed on the novel. We won't reveal anything, but it's that sometimes the mobsters are the bankers.
Yes, Harry himself. This is a kind of he's just been working on the police force on the murder squad.
Yeah.
But he sort of starts to encounter a really different world. This world of Hollywood, and the world consists of very high-powered actresses, like the actress and her family, who the actress had an affair with the actor named Gabby. When they were on their last film, and her family they may have all slept with him. There's some question about how many people slept with him or whatever.
Yeah.
And so any one of them might be blackmailing him, or might be part of this plot. That's one kind of group, is actors who are a kind of Hollywood elite. This group that he encounters is the Hollywood studio head.
Yeah.
Hollywood studio head at that time they still sort of considered themselves, the term was moguls. They were moguls, They were really kings of their own domain. And of course the main one was Louis B. Mayer at MGM. Mayer had kind of a stable of actors that he managed, and he was very, very powerful in his time. The power is starting to loosen at this point. That Harry starts to encounter him. And behind the Hollywood studio heads are the bankers.
Sure.
Because what had happened is, in the 30s, the major studios largely went bankrupt. And when they went bankrupt, the Eastern banks came in, and first they started running the studios. That didn't work out. They put their own sort of bean counters as the head of the studios, and they made terrible films that no one wanted to see. So pretty soon, the moguls were kind of back, only this time with slightly less power, because they didn't control their own finances. So there is a banker in the background of the story as well. And, he's also interested in LA, in what LA is. In the potential of LA for growing and becoming really perhaps the growth center of the country. And that's a part of this too.
Completely. And that's also before advancing to your other novels, or what you're writing right now about a series of the 40s, or actual series, but because you're writing a lot on different media. Dennis, there is, I think it's like in the first, second page of your book that it says, "Oh, these characters are fiction. There is any coincidence," and well, there are some kind of coincidences, isn't it? Why haven't you placed real names to some actors, to some characters of your film?
Well, I kind of want to let the audience sort of guess a bit
Yeah.
who's supposed to be who. But most people are someone who actually exists. And sometimes they're composite characters. But for example, right behind you is the Hollywood Reporter. So there is a character that Harry encounters, and he's based on Billy Wilkerson, who was the head of the Hollywood Reporter. And Billy Wilkerson was really a character.
Really?
He claimed to have brought on the blacklist all by himself.
Yeah.
He was very right wing. You know, he really ruined a lot of people's reputation. He also claimed that he was pure as the driven snow, and he had I think he had 5 wives or maybe 6 or something like that.
Oh my, I didn't know that because I'm doing my research about media and festivals, and wow, he's quite a character, but I didn't know
He's quite a
he's
character.
6
I
wives.
think there's a line in the book where Harry says, that this character, the character in my book, the one who head of this paper, he said he slept around a lot. They have a funny name for this in Hollywood. They call it marriage.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I really took note of that. It's very funny.
So he's sort of there. He also has a meeting with J. Edgar Hoover in the book. Of course, they were friends.
Yeah.
And he also has a meeting with one of the actresses in the book, and that leads Harry to figure out something about her and something about her secret.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, she is kind of based on Lana Turner. We'll say her name is Lena Trainer, so that should give you a hint.
Yeah.
It is kind of based on Lana Turner, and you can sort of guess. I wanted to have the audience have some fun with trying to guess who some of these people were. So
Yeah,
I think
completely.
very few actual people in the book, but Hoover shows up in the book, and so does Walt Disney at a strange point.
Oh, the Disney, let's call it a scene, the Disney moment
Yes, just a
is
moment.
great
It's a cameo.
and portrays who he really was.
Yes. Harry sees him coming out of the FBI office.
Yeah.
And he's just been awarded a junior G-Man badge, and he's beaming. That really was Disney. Disney and some of a few of the other studio heads before the HUAC hearing in September. They actually called HUAC to Hollywood, and they testified against their own workers, mainly because Disney was really upset over a cartoonist strike in 1941. He wanted to get back at the unions. The whole HUAC thing was really an attempt to tame the Hollywood unions, and then the second part of it was an attempt to tame the Hollywood guilds, the Writers Guild, the Producers Guild, the Directors Guild. That's really what it was largely about.
But Dennis, as you told us, it is a trilogy. So,
Yes.
there's also a funny thing that any reader can guess that you always, I think, relate to actual times. So the blacklist may be related to actual times, but your next one may be related to the presidential campaign, even to Trump, Biden, and Bernie Sanders, and that's set in the 40s. How does it link each other?
Yes. Well, the second book, which I'm writing now, I'll probably be finished with it in another month, is called A Hello to Arms. So it's, that's a kind of takeoff on Hemingway's book, A Farewell to Arms, after World War I. Well, after World War II, unfortunately, there was a hello to arms after the U.S. and the whole world had already been through a traumatic war. and Harry gets sort of caught up in this investigation and trying to because this black man named Horace Williams comes to see him, and Horace has been fired, let go, because he's kind of losing his mind because he's been in these sort of fumes, working in this airplane plant. But Horace knows something. He's lost his memory, but there are things that are sort of coming back to him about the plant, and perhaps nobody wants him to know, and nobody wants his memory to come back. So it's by the way, just to say of Left of Eden, I'm talking about it in terms of politically and socially, but just so you know, there's lots of murders, there's lots of muggings, there's lots of fun blackmail.
Yeah.
Well, as we learned, and there is a trail of murder and blackmail which keeps leading him further and further up the Hollywood Hills. So I will say that. In this one, he follows the trail of Horace. Horace wants a house. You know, he says he wants to get paid and he wants a house, and Harry's out to help him. But eventually, don't want to give too much away, but Horace falls on bad times, and then Harry really has to sort of swing into high gear to help him. And the other thing that's going on is Harry gets hired, also in the first part of the book, to help the Henry Wallace campaign. Now, in terms of the U.S., the current situation, Wallace ran an independent campaign for president in 1948. And Wallace was for peace. He was against raising the military budget. He was against war with Russia. And he was also a big champion of both labor in terms of unions, because he was a sort of what was left of the New Deal from Roosevelt. And he was also a champion of equal rights for Negroes or blacks at the time. So there's a leak in the Wallace campaign. And this is in L.A. They have a headquarters in Santa Monica. And what they're saying is every time they try to do something, somebody shows up, and it's like they know their movements. So Harry's hired to find the leak. And he goes and interviews the Democrats and the Republicans. And what kind of emerges in terms of our own time is that, the Democrats and the Republicans are a little bit like Trump and Biden. Yeah. They're both shifty, and Harry can't trust either of them. And Wallace in our time is kind of like Bernie Sanders, you know, who actually is a politician with integrity. I know one comes along about every 50 or 60 years. Anyway, that's part of what he's doing. That's a second case. So he's pursuing two cases. The second case is to find out and plug the leak in the Wallace campaign. This is about a lot about this sort of restoring of the defense budget. That's what Harry gets sort of involved in, sort of tracking. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the third book of the trilogy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about it, and we'll talk. I guess that with Biden, Trump, and Sanders, we have a problem like we had a problem with Thomas Piketty. I'm more Biden guy. I guess you are more Sanders guy. Well, anyway, the third book is and also there's the Mexican community, LAPD, I guess.
Yes, the third book has something to do. Well, the second book has to do somewhat with the African American community in LA.
Yeah.
Because there's Horace, named after the Roman poet Horace for some reason. And Horace's girlfriend is named Dixie, who's also black, and well, of course, Dixie represents the South, so both of them have names that are kind of strange. And both are very, very interesting characters, and Harry gets involved with sort of both of them. The third book has to do with the sort of Mexican heritage in LA, which is a major part of LA. There is a show right now about that, but unfortunately, it's not very good. It's set in 1939. And it's called City of Angels, and it's a part of a franchise Gosh, I can't think of the name of the franchise at the moment. But it's a part of a franchise, but it's essentially kind of a standalone called City of Angels. But unfortunately, it's kind of cliched and it doesn't go that deep into the Mexican heritage in LA, which is a major thing. But the third book is called The Precinct with Golden R. And I don't know, the title refers to a film with Frank Sinatra about Frank Sinatra, where Frank Sinatra is a character with a heroin addiction. And with a heroin addiction, you say they have a golden R. So this is the precinct with the golden R.
Ah, I didn't know that. Yeah.
It's about the idea of drugs coming to LA. But usually, when we talk about drugs coming to LA, we talk about street dealers.
Yeah.
But this talks about drugs coming to LA through the pharmaceutical companies and through the police. And it explores Harry's relationship with the LAPD and what happened and how he got kicked off and this whole kind of controversy.
Oh, that promises to be also very interesting. I'm showing like different images of we have like posters of that time with talking about drugs and well, I'm trying to illustrate what you're showing. But before we must part, and I was you told me before that you were going to Venice. I was asking you what film festivals did you have in mind. But now there are lots of series, and are there any good series you can recommend us about that time frame, like 1930s, 1940s? Because as you said, City of Angels, well, we don't need to see it, isn't it? But is there any series that you say, oh, you must watch this? You can even binge this series, as you said in your book.
That's my book, Birth of the Binge. I also have I now write regular television criticism, and I have that's published in a number of places, British Daily, about 4 websites, and it's on 2 radio stations, one in the U.S., the Pacifica Network, and one in Paris at Art District. But my blog is called Broe on the Global Television Beat, and I will tell you, well, there is a series which a lot of people are really looking forward to, and it's HBO's version of Perry Mason, and it's going to be set in the 30s. Where it's like sort of, like remember young Sherlock Holmes? So it's young Perry Mason. Got all the characters. It's got Paul Drake, the investigator. It's got his secretary. But they're all just sort of starting out. So that's a period piece that looks to be pretty good that everybody's kind of looking ahead to. I've been writing about a lot of stuff, actually. But the one that I'm writing about this week is one you, I'm sure, know well, and that's, well, what's better called Casa del Papel, a House of Paper, which Netflix is called Money Heist.
Money Heist, see, yeah.
So I've been really enamored with that series. It's really amazing, actually. I think it does things with the heist film that have never been done before. Yeah. And I'll just say a bit about what I think, because I have this coming out in an article, but it's also going to be, it's in the next episode of Broe on the Global Television Beat. The first season, I think, why was the show so popular? It was phenomenally popular in Europe. Most popular Netflix film ever in Europe, one of the third most popular ever of any Netflix series. What was the reason for it being so popular in Europe? Well, my feeling is that what they did was they break into the Spanish Mint, and of course, in a heist film, you break in to steal money. But they didn't break in to steal money; they broke in to print money. And what did they say? They said, "Look, this is poor people's quantitative easing."
Yeah.
The ECB, the European Central Bank, in the wake of the European debt after 2008, just started printing money.
Completely. Yeah, that's it.
So Money Heist, the idea is, let's print money and give it to us.
Yeah.
That'd be a popular idea, And now in the second season, which Netflix calls season 3 and 4, but really it's the second season for Alex Pena.
That's it.
The second season, what they do is they break into the National Bank of Spain to melt down the gold reserves.
Mm.
Now, and this is remarked upon. Alex Pena is a very smart guy.
Yeah.
Remarked upon, but what the idea is that with the fading of the U.S. dollar, a lot more countries, and some of them secretly, but particularly Russia and China, but a lot of countries are starting to buy gold, and they're starting to transfer more of their money from dollars into gold.
Mm.
Okay, so as they do that, of course, they just lock it up and it's just gold bars and no one ever gets to see it because it backs the national currency. They start melting down the gold, so, and making it into trinkets so they can be distributed. It's a new kind of Robin Hood, and that's sort of been explicit in the second act. But it's very, very interesting, and I really like the show a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I know you like it. You know that it was first broadcasted in Spain through
Yes.
an aerial television, and well, it was okay, but it wasn't the huge success it had when it was broadcasted through Netflix. So it's an interesting case study of what local TV series, because this in other times would be only for Spain, can become
Yes.
global and well, show feelings all around, because yes, as you said, we all would prefer, well, give us the money and print the money and give it to us, because there's no reason for keeping it for the bankers only. So Dennis, we are getting to the end of the interview. For the end, I wanted to ask you if you, I don't know if you can foresee the future, or what do you think about film festivals will be in the future? Will we meet again in Cannes or wherever? How do you see it?
Well, yes, we will be in Cannes again next year, I hope. I mean, if there's not, I mean, let's hope there's a vaccine.
Yeah.
Talking about December, some people even think September. I don't know, we'll see. But that would be really good if we could. The future, though, I think film festivals will really have a place, especially, I think, more on the model of Venice than Cannes.
Mm-hmm.
Because Venice really is sort of ecumenical. It welcomes everything.
Yeah.
That the streaming services are there, the independents or European independents are there, American Hollywood studios are there, experimental films are there, 3D is there. I think the film festival will become more a festival of the moving image, rather than a film festival for theater goers.
Yeah.
And I think that change is already happening. It's not happening at Cannes, but that's because of the French theater owners. They have sort of refused. But I think slowly they're going to come around. But the major challenge at the moment is for the film industry is what's going to happen. Is the film industry and film theaters going to survive, and in what form? Now with a whole lot of theaters, a whole lot of studios putting their films online. So we will see, because the AMC theaters, these are the first or second leading theaters in the U.S., immediately blacklisted Universal when Universal put one of their films online. So it's going to be a war for a while before they sort of realize, which they usually do, how y'all can profit, off of our money.
Completely. We have to swap festivals one year, and you go to Toronto and I go to Venice, because for what you're telling me, it's like a similar philosophy. And this year they told Toronto will be like a mix of online events and on-site events, because well, there is no time frame for opening everything. And well, maybe interesting that how festivals deal with online and not online, and well, how is the future of the film festivals mixing and showing that different kind of things that you told us. Anyway, we will follow you through well, all the places where you write, like People's World, founded in 1924, and watching and showing also for our viewers now. You like the myth of Robin Hood a lot, because you wrote about the series Robin Hood in the neoliberal age, so our viewers can read about it.
Yes,
And
that's a Netflix series called Thieves of the Wood.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
Flemish series, which is quite interesting.
Yes, and Culture Matters, which is a very interesting site also, and well, one of the lots of places where we can read about your always very interesting opinions.
Yes, and if you'd like to,
Sure.
you can subscribe to my blog, Broe on the Global Television Beat, and if you just type that into Google, it will come up.
BGTV, I love the latest episode. Okay, perfect, bro. And the Global Television Beat. That's your
Yes, and
personal
we
blog.
talk about a lot of shows in the global context. We talk about the issues around the streaming services, and yeah, we just cover a lot of global television.
Yeah. I got it. Okay, perfect. So, thank you, Dennis. Keep safe.
Thank you, Antonio.
And I'll see you, well, in Venice, Toronto, San Sebastian, Cannes, wherever, or in Paris, or in Paris, or in Madrid, whenever you want.
Madrid. On Madrid. Yes. Yes.
See you. Bye bye.
All right. Bye, Antonio. Thank you so much.